Revelation 2895. From the 25th of September 1943. Temptations, inner struggles. Testing the will. In order to be able to perfect himself, the human being has to go through difficult inner battles because he is to test his strength of resistance in them. Spiritual maturity can only be attained through correctly applied will, and therefore it has to be tested time and again, and this requires soul struggles. The human being has to be confronted by temptations which only have the one purpose of being overcome so that the spirit will become increasingly freer. The abandonment of one's own bodily desires must be achieved, and only the soul shall come to development, and therefore the will must be strong, and a perpetual fighting against oneself is a necessity which necessitates the maturing of the soul. It is not an easy task, yet the fulfillment, the victory over oneself, is a reward, a success, which is worth all effort and overcoming. For the free spiritual state is so blissful that the human being has truly given up nothing but is only the recipient, for what he gives up is of no lasting value, but the freedom of the spirit remains with him eternally. People cannot be spared these struggles, for only through constant struggle does the soul purify and steel itself, and only then is it suitable for the free spiritual state, which presupposes a complete overcoming of matter, of earthly desires and cravings. And time and again the temptation must therefore approach the human being so that he will prove his power of resistance, so that he will seriously work on himself and let his will become active. Every spiritual progress consists of self-conquest, be it in giving up one's own desires towards God or towards one's neighbor. If the human being overcomes his desire for the sake of God and makes a sacrifice, he must always put his ego aside, he must strive upwards, he must strive for spiritual good and renounce every earthly pleasure, then he will consciously strive for the perfection of his soul, then it will become increasingly easier for him to withstand every temptation. His desires and cravings will become increasingly weaker the more he has become victor over himself. And the spirit in him will become freer and freer, for nothing will hold him any longer, and he can strive unhindered upwards. Temptations of every kind are cliffs and obstacles that must be overcome if the right path leading to the goal is to be continued. And the world will still provide the human being with manifold incentives to test his will. Time and again inner battles of the soul will have to be fought if earthly life is to result in constant progress, if the soul is to be able to mature through its own resistance. The goal cannot be achieved without a fight. The human being must always be ready to face his adversary who, time and again, approaches him in all temptations through the world and tries to bring him to his fall. The human being must constantly be on guard lest he succumb, and therefore he must fight without ceasing until he has defeated himself. Amen.